bird's eye view in Bayside for my son, the one that was born in 2012. Year in review for the city of New York, which is inside the state of New York, and a future potential Rh negative inheritant of utmost importance. He looks as though he is one of the marble statues or hand painted in one of the private collections of museum art painted children of European descent, but born here in America, North America. This year, my only focus has really been collecting his papers for some formal review. It's now the end of the year. I'm noticing, I've referenced it several times, there was an international licensed piece that came home from the school itself, which is not flying a Union Jack of the United States of America. And it has an international license on this unrest in the American colonies, which is written in crypt. It then has the American Revolutionary War written in crypt. This week, now that came home several months ago, so I could have something to digest and at least something to reference back on, since I have this time traveler's wife thing going on, in the sense of the day I wake up in, I'm never quite sure how the ACE, the heliosphere, in some orbital with a stereo field, and I have a Rhesus field of gravitational work that is not in its best health status at the moment, and hasn't been for most of the way that this year has progressed. I don't know if it's someone's personal punishment upon my person, unbeknownst to myself, that I can't seem to reach that level of important person, or to even defend myself, but here we are. Then I've heard this thing with all this black history and all this pride and all this whatever. When I was a kid, the advertising was always European American. It matched the monetary system here. Green linen. The models were chosen. They were usually of some European genetics. They were incredibly good-looking kids. And they were in the Gap. They were in, all sorts of different North American retailers. At some point, the advertising and modeling agency changed. I don't know why. Now, I don't even look at them. They're just absolutely, they're horrid to look. It's like poking you in the eye. They're ugly. The advertising's ugly. The marketing pieces are ugly. It's a terrible place to live. So now they talk about this civil war. And this is all I get. Is 2 pages. And it's almost like an answer key, which I greatly appreciate, since I have no reference on this whatsoever. This is like my New York Times, I suppose. Except it doesn't have any affiliation with anything, because there's no licensing here. This is just what they're updating, I guess, my son and myself in this Bayside station. So this has some interesting things. It talks about important people. There's only 2. There is Caesar. It says Caesar, believed to be the very last person released from slavery in New York State. Now, I find that very interesting. Why is Caesar the last person in New York State during this Civil War? When did the Civil War take place? Because Caesar was in Rome, supposedly, allegedly. So Caesar's associated with Rome, but yet he's part of the Civil War study guide in a modern era. Well, if that's not a head trip, I don't know what is. For the unlearned. And then it says Susan B. Anthony organized and led the women's suffrage movement. Yeah, I really feel like I've been suffering the entire time. It's an aptly named movement, but it says the right to vote. I still, while they allow me some false sense of voting by allowing me to actionably go with whatever non-essential equipment's in the area into a designated spot and pull a lever and mark a box, they call that voting. So, like, again, in this area, that's one of the events that they stick by, that participation's taking place. Although again, I've been kept so far out of the loop, I don't know what the hell we're voting for. Or why to even go through the motion, but I did try to participate. The other interesting thing is it said, what were the effects of the Civil War? It says they freed slaves. Something about Freedmen's Bureau helped African Americans receive education. Where is this Freedmen's Bureau for the white people? I'm just curious, since all the Africans I've ever heard of are black at the moment. I mean, they don't speak of white Africans. I don't know if they're trapped wherever they are in Africa. But in New York, the only people that have ever called themselves Africans are not European looking. So that gets or they're not RH negative, that's for sure. Let's be real specific. So that's confusing. It said many men lost in the war. And then it said rapid economic growth and progress in New York. Now that's confusing. So in this Civil War, only New York had rapid growth and progress? And it pays homage to Abraham Lincoln. I'm a Thomas Jefferson fan personally, but like whatever on that. Abraham Lincoln's never done anything for me, apparently, because of everything I've had to go through. It's been like the worst president ever. Then there's this piece. Now, as far as freedmen who gave all of the education and opportunity to some Civil War refugee crisis. I mean, like, the kids from the Great Migration have been disadvantaged in the field in actuality. I being, like, head representative there, since I can tell my story really clearly with specific detail of just how much they've overlooked and just how much I've been hurt in actuality in the field. Well, whatever this is going on. This particular one, my son came home with, says pre-unit writing, explaining why the lamp won't turn on. All it has is a photo, and it says it's called, 2018 is when it was copyrighted. It said, the Regents of the University of California. All rights reserved. So, it's just a photo. Attached to it wants my son to figure it out. There's no instructions of how the lamp works, why it won't turn on. He has to write his own story. And there's no instructions. This is the Regency of California. There's nothing. So that gets really confusing. It does, however, give a vocabulary list. This is what a tree looks like. This is what a cloud looks like. Here's what power lines look like. Here's what a house looks like. But there's no interactive science words or anything agreed upon or important for my children. Or for my one son at this point. And for me as an adult to follow along. God forbid, I don't know. The gods look favorably upon me and let me and Father of Time have a love affair for once. So here we are. So written reflections. This is investigating light. This is what my son gets at school. Mystery box model when the eye hole is blocked. It gives no instruction, and it just gives a photo, and it expects my son, whoever this Regents of California is, to invent whatever the scientific words are and how they interact. Now, for my one son, I get this completely. But the rest of the class, he's not in a private setting. So this gets incredibly confusing. So this is how his education's gone thus far in New York. I don't understand why. I've never met anybody who said, on a map, this Civil War, was it fought and won in, it feels like New York seems to have the hardest hit area for the moment in the city limits. Everybody said it had happened in the past when they theoretically placed it in someone's hypothesis with an ISBN number at some point. I can't remember it. But this particular one has no copyright. It's just, is this my FBI update? Is it just 2 pages? This is all I get? Oh, we forgot to invite you to family functions. We forgot that you were important and maybe we should have invited you to actual law enforcement conferences and kept you in the loop or given you the correct Father of Time husband you were designed for. So instead, consolation prize, 43 years we left you abandoned and abused in the field. Maybe someone should send her the answer key. Right, yeah, great. And what does it say? The northern states and the southern states, that's what I get, is what the Civil War was between. Whatever that means. So it's a little confusing based on who's here, who's funding them, who planned for their insidious migration and takeover. It's obvious what they're up to in the sense of I look at the storefronts, I look at the landscapes, I read it like a video game, and I'm a POV in the center. And each one of the districts tells a very distinct story from heliosphere virtual reality looking in at Ace's landscape view. It tells a very ominous world history, in my opinion, which is the only one that counts since I'm the only one recording this. But what happens is, I don't know how to capitalize on this. Like, how was I supposed to cover my own expenses and pay for myself? That's what I don't understand. I see other people thriving and contributing and whatever, and traveling, looking for I don't know what, but yet I don't understand how to participate in any of this. It's star 1978, star 8378, Nicole, Cattaruzza, it's Earth. And this is 4th grade curriculum, by the way. History in 4th grade is 2 pages, back and front. What kind of career and what kind of world is built for the next 20 years when he wants to do whatever and whatever. I don't really see anything for him. I don't know what the other kids have been studying, what level of curriculum they're at, what enrichment program they've been bestowed while amongst these lands and in the city limits. But I can see on the news, the local news, when I turn on the teleprompter, it looks like there's very specific money been donated. Enrichment programs, athletic programs, all sorts of things to help these kids survive and like get out of poverty. I really don't see any effort being made for my own son in like the grand schematic of things. I can't see it. The education level is piss poor. He's RH negative. There's a special spot in Celestial, there should be, and cosmology for him, based on his cosmetic that he expresses in his genes, in his genetic appearance. I don't understand why he's not brought into that quiet group, and why he's left in this dangerous possibility yet again, yet another generation. RH positive is all over the world. That's their blood type. I'm an RH negative. It's a very specified small group. I don't understand why I am cut off from all of them. That's like big track signals that something major is wrong. Star 1978, star 8378, Nicole, Cattaruzza, it's Earth. Solar system, Milky Way, universe, galaxy is broken, and it's Bayside Station, Bayside, New York, 11361.